So now that we have the light bulb built, I'm going to demonstrate how to derive a die line for a folding corrugated shipper box. This is going to be based on a double end wall box, which is a pretty standard configuration. And this is just a variation on how to work with that material. I'm taking the double end wall and I'm going to integrate the filler panels to support this light bulb in this box to protect it. So this would be basically a little self shipper for this light bulb. They have a carton now that they use. It's an end-loaded carton, and the presentation isn't very nice. You open the end, and you've got filler pieces in there, and it's a craft construction. Doesn't have really nice graphics on it, so it's a little underwhelming for this price point for this light bulb. So I'm just changing the orientation of laying the light bulb down, and then using the double end walls to present that, and then using this side panel to create this presentation. So again, this is a self-shipper, so we could have graphics on the inside, which is a little bit more informative and just a nicer presentation. So this will be to develop that die line. So this is the structure. Um, it's just a rectangular box, and I'm bringing in these angled panels that will have die cuts in it that will support that. I have a locking tab, but this will be held together with a sealing tape or even the shipping label on the outside to support that. So this will be very strong with this triangulation in here, and then the double end walls make it quite a strong structure. Okay, so let's go to the die line area. So this is the die line, and it's derived from this little structure I have over here to the left. This is how I start this process. So I'm going to focus on this for now. So just by taking the light bulb, this solid piece of geometry that I've created, I turned it horizontal for this presentation, and I'm trying to figure out what the panels will look like in this structure. So I need to start off with this panel in the center here that's going right down the middle of the bulb. That represents the geometry of the box from the front view, and then these two angled parts. So let's look at that from the front. So I am guessing a little bit. I'm adding some material to the left, to the top of the bulb and the bottom of the bulb, and all around these edges for a little extra support and to accommodate for the thickness of the E-flute material. I'm going to use a E-flute corrugated board to create this. And once I figured that out, which took a little bit of thinking to figure out what I'm going to do there, I created these angular panels which come from this top corner and they go right down to the center. Those are the panels that are going to fold in and create the support that holds the bulbs. So the intersection of those panels with the light bulb is where we're going to die cut the shape of the bulb. Now, since I have the geometry of the bulb here, it's relatively easy to do. So all I have to do is find the line of intersection between the light bulb and that panel, and then that'll be my guide. It's a somewhat of a complicated little shape that would be somewhat hard to do without using this 3D file. So to do that, this time I'm going to use line of intersection to find out what that looks like. Last time I used the trim split tool, where I actually cut the objects apart from one another. They're both fine. In this situation, all I need is the line work so I can make my mock-up to test the functionality of this structure. So both of them will work. So I'm going to use line of intersection this time. And that comes from the modify tool group here. We have union of all my Boolean operations. Down here, I have intersecting line of intersection. So I'm going to select that tool right there. And you can select two objects that obviously intersect with one another, and it'll give us that line of intersection. So it's a great tool. So I'm going to select the light bulb, and I'm going to select that panel. And there it is. It gives me that shape on that panel. So when I flatten this out to create my die line, I will have that guide that I can use to cut out the die. So I need to do that on this other panel on this side. So all I'm going to do is unghost. Do I have the whole light bulb assembled? It's got to be in here. There it is. Okay. So let's just go back into the gray interactive shader so we can see that. So again, I'll just do the same operation with the line of intersection. I'm going to select the bulb, and I'm going to select that panel. And I have this, so let me just ghost this part so we can see. I only did this half because I selected the wrong one. Hold on. I'm just going to ghost that. That's half the bulb, so let's just ghost that. Okay, I want the entire bulb, and there it is. Okay, so back to line of intersection, select the bulb, and select the panel, and we should have the full. So that line right there is the intersection. So when I cut that out of that panel and I put my bulb in there, that's going to support that and hold that. So these are now ready to go. These are the critical nuances for this particular design. Everything else is going to be pretty straightforward. So let's just ghost the center panel. That center panel, that's going to represent the front of my box. So let's just ghost it. See, these are just lines. I didn't actually cut the hole in the panel. I'm going to do that by hand. But those are separate entities that are not part of that. So when I select, I need to select the panel and shift and select that line at the same time. I could cut that line through the panel, but it's not really necessary at this point. When I make a rendering, I might want to do that, but I'm going to take all of these panels and lay them flat out with the parameters of the box and then some of these other components that are going to make this box work. So this transition is a little bit back and forth, and I'm allowing some tolerances for the E-flute and some of the folding. The folding sometimes creates little extra spaces, and we need tolerances for that. So if you can keep that in mind, those two panels and that rectangular panel, which represents the front of the box, is how this whole die line was created. So I'm going to select some of these panels and show you which ones they are. So this front panel right here that I'm selecting, that comes from that front rectangular panel. And since it's a square box on end, these panels are all the same. Some nuances for tolerances and tuck flaps, but it's quite subtle. So all of that creates that. And then we have the end, which is this square section here. And then I have these two half panels that come in, which create my double end wall structure. So they fold in, and instead of having just a double end wall, I'm using this triangular section that we just created and have that fold in to our center line. I know this is a lot to think about in your mind, and I have these triangular sections which fold off of these, and that creates our internal structure. This will all come together when I take this and print this out, and I'm going to cut that and show how to make that out of the E-flute. And we'll see how all this works. But I just wanted to briefly show how I derived the die line based on the geometry built in this 3D program. So I'll put this together with the other tutorial of actually folding the carton.